Hi, my name is Cody Marvin, and this is my Engineering 381 project video. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is my overall purpose with this project. My initial purpose was just to learn about additive manufacturing or 3D printing in general. Coming into this intro level class, I knew just about nothing about it. I had never worked with 3D printing before, and I didn't really know what to expect coming into this. So overall, it was really useful just looking at the end of the semester, the things that I learned coming out of it. My next purpose was just to be able to create a project that I'm proud of. Um, Considering the fact that I'd never done anything before, I wanted to just be able to print something and have an actual device that works. And then I plan to put it on my desk, so hopefully I'd be able to talk to my roommates about it, or if anybody came in my room, they'd be able to see, like, oh, hey, what's that? And I'd be able to have a conversation, and actually show it to people rather than have to hide it or throw it away. More seriously, though, I want to be able to use what I learn in this class in future semesters. In a couple semesters, I'm going to be taking mechatronics, which we're going to have to design and build something. I don't know what that is, but something. And being able to print anything that I need, whatever design or shape that is going to be incredibly useful rather than having to machine everything. Uh, It'll probably be a lot quicker too. So I'm excited to be able to use this in future semesters. Um, and I think that's overall the main purpose of this class. For my design specifically, I just wanted to create something relatively unique. I knew there were a lot of other students taking this class, and so I just wanted to make something that would stand out a little bit. Um, However, it also needed to relate to mechanical engineering, which is my major. So that was a little bit of a restraint considering the fact that there's anything that you could print, but it had to relate to mechanical engineering. Overall, I really think that I did this. I met this goal well. I realized that there's a huge amount of things that relate to mechanical engineering, so I had no problem coming up with the design. And then my final goal was just to create something within my limits. Again, coming into this with no prior experience, I was a little bit nervous, not expecting to do too well. So I just wanted to create something that I would actually, or design something I'd actually be able to create, and that affected my design process pretty heavily. Overall, when it came to what I was going to design, I knew it wanted to incorporate a few different things. So the day I actually decided what I wanted to do was the same day that I found out about this two-seat couple. It's just a circle with a coplanar circle that's half the diameter, and it falls inside the larger circle, and they meet at just one tangent point. And as this rotates around, if you look at any point on this circle and you just track it, it'll form some sort of an ellipse. Those are called hypotrochoids. However, what I really liked about it was you can see in the dark blue on the right-hand side GIF is that there's one point, or actually four, but with that one point there is going to be turning that rotary motion into linear motion. And I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't seen anything like that before. So I knew I wanted to somehow make something that incorporated that. My next 2 points, gears and pistons, are huge in mechanical engineering, so I thought it would make sense to do anything that involved the two of those. And it fit pretty well with this. Gears, I'd never built before. I didn't know that much about them or the way they're designed. And then pistons, just about every problem in thermodynamics involved some sort of piston. So it made sense to use those in my overall design. So for my um, actual project, that's how it looks. That's how it turned out. I'm pretty happy with this. Um, However, it's not exactly how I was planning, and so I can go into the actual model. And this is the assembly of the model. So if you look at the left side, you can see that I was planning on having this entire thing flat and even, nothing protruding from the front. That didn't end up happening, but the overall thing about this that I thought was the most interesting was if you look at the back, there's this crank, and that's what you're actually using to turn the gear on the other side, and it's connected with a single rod right here that can only be put in one direction because it has a little notch cut out of it, kind of like a one-tooth gear. And I thought that was pretty interesting, but again, that it connects to the same exact crank on this other side. So I actually printed two of the same piece and used that and connected them on the same side. So it's as if you're turning the same exact crank at the same exact time when you're doing that. And then that crank is connected to this smaller gear right here. Again, just like the 2C couple I explained earlier, it's exactly half the diameter as this larger housing gear. And as I had never made a gear before, I kind of just decided to go with a tooth looking shape. Uh, However, I realized that that wasn't going to work because they actually have a little bit that goes into the design of it. You can see that the shapes still aren't exactly the same, and the reason I did that was because after I printed the tooth, they didn't fit together too well, and so I kind of changed the design so that it would, when it's printed, it actually shows out bigger than these lines right here, because there's an amount of mass with the material that's printed. So I thought that if I changed the shape a little bit, they'd fit together nicer, and this ended up working a little bit better than original, but I think I've still got some work to do in learning how to make gears in general. And then this is just the piston that's going straight up and down. So once it rotates, it's just going up and down. If you look at the top though, oops, um, I made a star shape piston opening. This actually caused me a lot of problems that I'll talk about later, but I thought that that was pretty interesting because you can't really do that with any sort of piston. I don't think you'd want to actually, but that would be incredibly difficult to manufacture, and so I kind of thought it added a little bit to it, the overall design. But I don't have any piston head that's going through it. Um, However, so with the highlights of this, I think it looks all right. It's definitely not the best looking project ever. I didn't really know um, that much about how to finish it or what kind of printing properties would change how it came out. Overall, though, it has pretty smooth surfaces, and I liked how the curves weren't actually straight curves. It adds a little bit more of detail to it that I liked. But overall, I'm most proud of the fact that it works. So you can see there that it kind of got stuck once I started changing speed, and that's what I was talking about with the gears not meshing as much as I would have liked. Um, but it still does work. It rotates just as I thought it would, and the piston stayed connected and went up and down. So I'm pretty happy with how that came out. Overall, though, I did make quite a few mistakes throughout this design process. Um, you can see in this picture right here that the gear is coming out and the piston or connecting rod more like is pulling away from the gear. This is something that I didn't really know how to fix, and so originally I had planned on just all of the connections being 3D printed. However, this didn't work out, and so I had metal T-pins that I cut into the correct um, length, and then I would put them in to connect everything. This ended up working out pretty well, but again, as you can see in this picture, it didn't stay together as much as I would have liked, and that's one of the biggest problems with why it gets stuck, is because the more you rotate it, the more that the inner gear kind of starts wobbling and getting loose from its connection, and so the more it turns away from that plane that it's supposed to be in, the worse that it's going to be able to move. And then the piston, that was incredibly difficult to attach because there's such little material right there that I couldn't figure out a good way to do it because it can't just be glued on there or connected or anything because both the gear and the piston have to rotate about that connection, or just at least one of them does, so that as the gear is rotating, the piston can go up and down rather than just being snapped in half by the top housing. So, like I said earlier, the star caused me a few problems. It had a lot of extra material in there that's supposed to be supporting material, but it didn't really do that much. I didn't know how to cut it out other than using a knife, so that's why the shape at the end didn't look as much like a star I would have liked. And so I learned a lot about just knowing the machine that you're on. Looking at the different machines that are available, I can now see why that there are so many different ones available because you want to be able to do some things on the RepRap machine, which is what I use, that you can use on any of the other ones. So the small details were definitely hard, but I didn't have that many problems with them, just the star shape. So overall, though, the takeaway from this, from all of my mistakes, was that additive manufacturing isn't a one-size-fit-all process. Um, Obviously, by the connections I used, I had to bring in some other materials that weren't printed. This kind of means to me that in the future, when I'm doing other projects, maybe mechatronics, that I'm gonna have to incorporate other types of manufacturing. I might have to machine things on my own or just build things on my own, use different materials, whatever. But I shouldn't plan on being able to print everything. Granted, maybe in the future when machines are better, or more importantly, I'm a lot more knowledgeable on 3D printing. Maybe I could design some things that can be printed just entirely out of 3D material, but I'm not entirely certain about that at this point. So again, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I don't think it's a beautiful looking machine and it doesn't work as great as it probably could, but it's pretty good. I'm proud of it considering I didn't know anything about 3D printing just a few months ago, and now I've created something that I will be putting on my desk and showing to my roommates. Thank you.